Hello and welcome to another video here with me, Meoni, for Final Fantasy XIV, and today marks the debut of a new special site for Shadowbringers and updates to this site. The expansion then, as they show on this new website, does release on July the 2nd, as we all know, and you can click to view the full trailer that's playing in the background here in all its glory, which I would advise if you've not seen it, as it's some of Square Enix's best work, especially Masayoshi Soken's sound design on this one. He really went all out. Anyway, they give you a button to pre-order the game if you so desire, which will immediately grant you a pair of Aetheryte earrings which have an experience boost for your character all the way up to level 70, and a gremlin minion, so definitely in your interest then to pre-order if you haven't already. Additionally to those rewards, you get to play on June the 28th instead of July 2nd, so that's mostly the main draw to pre-order. As we scroll down this page, there is indeed information we did not know about previously, and this video will be quite lengthy because there's a lot of lore sections that I want to actually read. So if you're not really interested in that, just stop the video, go and read it yourself. But for people commuting who perhaps don't have the time to read through all this, sit back and enjoy, because I'll be covering everything here. The background of this section here is showing various cutscenes that debuted at the various fan festival events, such as the Dancer reveal, the Gunbreaker, Viera, Hrothgar, and parts of the Thirst itself. The text reads, "Warriors of Light, embrace the darkness and forge a new fate. Alamigo is at last free from Imperial rule, but that liberty may prove fleeting as the Empire moves to both reclaim this bloodied nation and subjugate all of Eorzea. In their hour of need, however, they cannot turn to the Warrior of Light, nor the Scions who yet slumber, their souls adrift. The realm is left to struggle without its saviours, for they have been beckoned beyond time and space, beckoned to the Thirst. Here a new adventure begins in a world where light ushers all unto oblivion, but hope is not yet lost, for where there is light, there is shadow." Ominous stuff then. There are 3 boxes that you can click on to navigate 2 sections on this website to the storyline, challenges and systems, but there are also tabs at the top of the screen that we can use to get around here as well. First, if we scroll down a little, we can see the Shadowbringers versions that you can purchase. The big image there showing all of the collector's edition items, both in-game and physical, for both the physical collectors and the digital collectors, which you'll be pleased to know that I managed to snag myself a pre-order of that physical collectors when they first went live, so you can expect a full unboxing video of that on July the 2nd. You can click on the product details tab section to find out more about each option, and I believe it also has store links to purchase them. Hopefully they stock up on collector's editions again, because currently they're sold out. So onto the story tab. Hero becomes villain, it says, as the Warrior of Light embraces the dark and embarks upon an adventure that transcends worlds. Pore over these records, learn about the lands and the foes that await, and prepare for the trials ahead. It's a little unusual for them to say hero becomes villain, especially when it was more explained at FanFest that we would be using dark aspected ether, and it wouldn't really be negative decisions to alter the balance. So I guess that we are a villain of sorts. Moving on. And then we have this beautiful footage of various zones playing in the background with tabs that you can click on to get a little bit about each place. It says the flood of light rendered the vast majority of the Thirst devoid of life, with Norvrant remaining as the last bastion. Being a reflection of the source, its climates and environs resemble those of Eorzea, though the cultures of its diverse range of inhabitants have taken an entirely different course over its troubled history. The Crystarium and Ulmor are new cities that we can visit then. There's 5 images in total for the Crystarium. The Crystarium is explained to be a bustling city that developed around the Crystal Tower in the years following its sudden appearance in Lakeland. It serves as a safe haven for the people of all races and creeds as they join hands in the struggle against the merciless Sin Eaters. So I guess that sort of answers my question of why there's a Crystal Tower and no Allegan Empire, but there we go. Ulmor then has 4 images to scroll through, with its influence extending across the majority of the Isle of Colusia. This powerful military nation once stood firm against the onslaught of the Sin Eaters. Recent years have seen a drastic shift in Ulmor's position, with the wealthy upper classes turning their backs on the plight of the world, indulging in an endless parade of decadence and debauchery. So this is clearly Limsa Minsa, or at least this world's version of it. You can tell that by the sort of mercantile vessels that are just run aground. They just basically gave up on everything and decided to live in gluttony and forget about defending the world, which is a very interesting take on things. Then we have sections on the actual zones that we'll be visiting, which is presumably the full list that we get to play in. The first is Raktika, which has 4 images to look at. Once, long before its towering trees were seeds, in this millennia-old forest stood the royal capital of an advanced magical civilization, the Ronkan Empire. The stony remnants of its long grandeur can still be spied beneath the shadowy boughs. Is this then the first version of the Garlean or Allagan Empire? Am-Aranj is next. It was on the edges of this vast desert, occupying the southern expanse of Norvrant, that the flood of light was halted. Inhospitable from the beginning, it now lies on the threshold of life and all-consuming radiance. The 3 images here show the crystal expanse here sweeping across the land like waves. It's quite incredible really to look at. The terrain itself here seems sort of slanted and broken and uneven. I'm really excited to go there in the game. Ilmeg is up next, and I hope you brought your sunglasses. Tucked away in the mountains, this enchanted land was once home to the kingdom of Vobert. When men abandoned it following the flood of light, it instead became home to the Fey folk, the playful and childlike pixies chief among them. The 2 images here are filled to the brim with light, purely astonishing to see how bright these zones are, and I think there's supposed to be a game mechanic where we're going to be returning the weather patterns and indeed fixing these skyboxes essentially. So presumably it won't be like this forever, but it's very washed out and quite bright as you would imagine. Next up we have the Wall from Game of Thrones in the north. Well, it looks like that to me in this image, complete with a little castle black there at the base. Anyway, this is the only image we have of Colusia, the largest island in Norvrant. The greater part of Colusia lies under the dominion of Ulmor, the city of final pleasures. Compared to the other lands, it is known for experiencing few Sin Eater attacks, a reputation which draws throngs of refugees to its shores. We only get that 1 image to work on here, sadly, but I really like the idea of that lift thing. It looks like it was built into that chalky rock of that cliff face. Pretty good stuff. And the last zone looked at is Lakeland, which we already have seen in the trailer for the expansion, the various zone previews, and a lot of the incredible artwork shown. A verdant region centered around the source, they say, the Great Lake, whence it derives its name. Rich in ether, this land has long been held sacred by the elves, its original inhabitants. Nowadays, it falls under the aegis of the Crystarium, mankind's final bastion in the war against the Sin Eaters. 3 images are here, as you might expect. Bright purples and pinks are awash with that same washed out colour and bright skies. Not quite the holiday destination then. So the next section down on this website is where they talk about the new trials coming to Shadowbringers, showing Titania there on the left and Innocence on the right. Titania's read-up says, is a being of great power. She holds sway over the pixies and the other fey folk of Ilmeg, whom, despite their notoriously temperamental natures, bow before their ruler one and all. The section on Innocence says, Innocence sits at the top of the hierarchy of Sin Eaters, the beings that emerge from the flood to plague what remains of mankind. Beyond that, its nature and purpose remain shrouded in mystery. These things are going to be really interesting. During FanFest Tokyo, they were saying how important these will be throughout the storyline, and ultimately this is the first image we get of the big bad behind it all, or at least the one that's at the top of the pile. A small section is below talking about the actual beast tribes, that the pixies, it says, though they command of magic unrivaled in Norvrant, pixies generally limit their sphere of activity to Ilmeg, dancing amongst the winds on colourful wings. Do not be fooled, however, they are often as cruel as they are carefree. The section on the Numo beast tribe section reads, though somewhat canine in appearance, the Numo are indeed members of the Fae, and make their homes in Ilmeg. They are more fairly disposed towards man than their pixie cousins, however, and maintain close ties with the people of Vobert back in its day. And lastly, the dwarfs, basically Lalafels in hats with beards. This insular tribe dwells upon Mount Gulg in Colusia, its diminutive people really leaving the community of their birth. Dwarves are known for their skill at mining, metallurgy, and crafting mechanical marvels, but they themselves consider the true makers of Dwarfshood to be respected for tradition and adherence to strict ancestral laws. It's pretty likely then that these tribes will have their counterparts like in previous expansions, probably a different sect of a couple of these that we actually do business with, and ultimately hopefully we get those daily quest hubs and we get one of those pixies as a minion one day. That would be pretty awesome. So that's the section on storyline, so let's look at the Challenges tab. The lands of Norvrent, it says, are abound with danger, offering a host of thrilling challenges. As we strive to bring ever richer experiences to the world of Final Fantasy XIV, we have invited esteemed guest creators to create a harrowing new story to test the mettle of the realm's greatest heroes. They are of course talking about things such as Yorha Dark Apocalypse. There is very little detail given here, as you might imagine at this stage, and I don't think they're really going to slip anything out at this point. Both Yasuke Sato and Yoko Taro, who are famous of course for their Nier series, amongst other things like Drakengard, are on board for this series of Alliance raids. So it should be quite awesome, and I can't wait to actually hear more details on this personally, and hopefully they don't reveal everything and we get some interesting surprises along the way. Eden then, the name of the new 8-man, is put below this with the iconic scene there with the single sprout that appears to be alive in this wasteland of light. Beyond the boundaries of Norvrent lies the Empty, a land drowned in the primordial light of the flood. To redress the balance of the elements, our hero must wield a power the likes of which the first has never known, the power of Eden. Interesting, so it looks like they're actually putting the 8-man storyline into that main story somehow, which is very interesting to learn indeed. You can't really judge much from a picture of a sprout here, but back when this was first unveiled, I had this crazy idea and itch in my brain that this was probably Yggdrasil, and that this would be similar to that storyline, since so much of the naming culture we've seen this time around really does seem to lean more on a sort of Norse perspective. Who knows at this point, it could be really cool to explore that mythos further in 14. Next on the list is Instance Dungeons, of which they show 3. Again, no names are given at this time. As light threatens to engulf Norvrent, her people would seek sanctuary in shadow, yet even the dark denies them solace. What new dangers lurk in the dungeons of Shadowbringers? The first image of this dark tomb here, the second of definitely a dungeon in Ilmeg. My goodness, the difference between those two images is like turning a light switch on and off. And the third here is of this burning town that we still don't know anything more about, in this sort of outdoor location. Perhaps we started this fire, but if I know anything from the Billy Joel song, it's probably someone else. And lastly, for this page, at the very bottom, is the restoration of the Holy See of Ishgard, which certainly seems out of place, if I'm honest, amongst all of this information about the first. Either way, it says the Dragon Song War has long since ended, but its scars yet remain. As man and dragon work together to rebuild the Holy See, the people of Ishgard have come to find they want for helping hands. This then is the true endgame content promised for gathering and crafting classes, which we don't know much about, apart from it will be potentially unlocking a new housing district throughout the rebuilding process that is said to take the duration of 5.x, so that will be interesting to see how it develops and how exactly they go about implementing that. The systems section is up next, introducing entirely new systems, they say, as well as improvements to existing ones. Gunbreaker and Dancer get listed here as the new jobs, whilst the footage of each is played in the background. Confirmed once again for the tank to be a Gunbreaker and a ranged physical role for Dancer. You can click on both to actually get some backstory about both of these jobs. The Gunbreaker, it reads, the Hrothgar of Northern Ilzabard passed the art of the gunblade from one generation to the next. The weapon itself combines a sword with a firing mechanism, emitting a range of magical effects by utilizing etherically imbued cartridges. Originally employed by Queen Gunhilda's personal guard, they were once known as Gunhilda's blades, and differ greatly from the similarly named weapons used in the Garlean Empire. The dancer write-up reads, "From the Near Eastern nation of Favnir comes a troupe of bewitchingly graceful performers. Though certainly elegant and beautiful, their movements also speak of martial discipline, of a pulsing, persistent energy, whose rhythm can inspire souls and soothe troubled hearts. Inured to the hardships of the road, these dancers have learned to land throwing weapons with the same exacting precision as their footfalls, removing any who would obstruct the endless beat of the dance." It's very cool. I love it when they actually explain why certain techniques exist. I'm definitely excited to do their quest lines in Shadowbringers and see what they're all about. Next up is the actual races, both of which, the Hrothgar and Viera, have some lore written up here. There are two types of Hrothgar subspecies, the Hellions and the Lost. Hrothgar of the Hellion clan are easily discerned from their counterparts by their warm colour of their fur. In ages past they could be found primarily in the southern region of Ilsabard, devout servants of their queen one and all. Though they themselves have no word to describe their clan, scholars came to call them Hellions after observing how the people's lives all but revolved around their queen's needs, as planets circle the sun. The Lost, unlike their Hellion brethren, have always been a free-spirited people, for their traditionally nomadic lifestyle. Unbound to the whims of any reigning monarch, they are known to ply various trades, from seasonal worker to mercenary to peddler. They are reluctant, however, to undertake duties at odds with their propensity to travel. The cold wintry colours of their fur are said to serve as a symbol of their independent nature, which drove them far from the warm embrace of their queen. Hailing from the distant shores of Ilsabard, the Hrothgar are a burly people of lion-like appearance, or the males are at least. Females number few among their population, and thus are rarely so much as glimpsed by other races. The Hrothgar's imposing countenance, mitigated not at all by their sharp claws and still sharper fangs, incited panic amongst the Eorzeans upon their first arrival, as they were also unable to communicate. Initial interactions with the common folk often escalated into conflict. It was not until the Hrothgar gained mastery of the common tongue that fears were allayed, and in time they would be as neighbours, welcome in all corners of the realm. The Viera section then. There are two types of Viera, the Rava and the Vina clans. Viera of the Rava clan live primarily in the Golmore jungle, their umber skin allowing them to readily blend in with their surroundings. Though the males stand as wards of the forest, the females are adept hunters in their own right, fiercely guarding their homes and their young. Despite attempts by the Dalmaskins to subjugate them, they have ever maintained a self-governing dominion. Though most would adhere to the traditions of the wood, some few have chosen to venture out into the world. The Vina then, their skin as fair as the snow-capped mountains towering above. The Vina clan makes their homes in the forest lining the southern west foothills of the Scate range. Like the members of their sister clan, the Vina live as hunters and gatherers, labouring not only to protect the woods, but to nurture them. As the winds of war swept up a number of those who left their mountain homes, many such hardened hunters chose to set out for the distant shores of Eorzea. Of tall stature and slender frame, the Viera's physical appearance is strikingly similar to that of the Hyur and Elazin, save for their distinctive long ears. Adhering to the strict code known as the Green Word, they are prohibited from contact with the outside world under threat of exile. Their society is purely matriarchal, and males of age are seldom, if ever, found within the bounds of any village. They instead serve as protectors of the wood from the shadows, that no evil may ever encroach on their sacred lands. It's a very interesting read. Much of the Viera lore was already present in a similar way in Final Fantasy XII, but the Hrothgar portion is quite fascinating. I wonder then if one day we're ever going to get to see this queen of theirs. That would be quite interesting. Next on this list is information about the upcoming trust system. In Shadowbringers, they say players will have the opportunity to challenge dungeons with a party of trusted non-player characters, including various scions of the Seventh Dawn, though the traditional party matching systems will of course remain intact. And the last bit is on the additional updates section, so New Game Plus is actually mentioned here. They say this brand new system will allow for replay of previously completed quests while retaining one's current progression and job level. That's all they have to say about that, so there's no information on basically how that happens, what we have to do, if there are any new rewards, if we can gain experience from it. So really I'm hoping for a lot more information on that before I decide whether I'm actually interested in that or not personally. by. The 80 level cap and of course mention of new gear and crafting recipes is tagged onto the end here, and the media tab of this website holds all of the trailers and footage we've had revealed so far, the zones, the races, etc., various artwork and screenshots, and the products tab, the last section on this website, talks once again about the pre-ordering of the expansion itself and the various benefits. So that's the special site in its entirety in its current version. You might think that was quite a long video where we were just basically reading stuff out. With so much new information here sort of hidden away and so many new write-ups for the various races and indeed the jobs now, I thought it was a pretty important one to cover today, or at least I wanted to read it, so I thought I'd record it. Either way, let me know if you were intrigued by any of these new reveals, especially the new race lore. I'm very excited to see what people think about that, and I'll see you all next time.